Welcome everybody to another exciting episode of HomeKit Insider. You've got me, your host as always, Andrew O'Hara, and I'm writing solo this week. Everyone was just having a great holiday, for those that are in the US, celebrating Thanksgiving. It is the kickoff of, holiday shopping times with Black Friday. This episode is dropping on Cyber Monday. I'm sure there are a bunch of deals out there. I'm not going to go through any on the show. As usual, you can go check out appleinsider.com where we have a bunch of price guides that have been being updated through Black Friday, through the weekend, and through Cyber Monday. So, keep an eye on those. There'll be some smart home deals in the mix. But yeah, we just have your normal, typical smart home stuff to talk about today on this episode. So let's go ahead and get to it. Oh, actually, real quick, I had a quick personal story of stuff that just went on right before this whole podcast situation. We lost power. So here in Ohio, we started to get some crazy snow coming in. But even before the snow started, somebody ran their car into a pole and took out power for a large area. And we were without power for hours. Now, this has happened before. We've gone days without power, let alone brownouts and things like that. So we were somewhat prepared, but it was interesting to see how Smart Stuff was able to cope with that. So the first thing I did, brought up our smallest battery pack, and I was able to use that to use for the formula dispenser for Ellie because it was at 5 o'clock at night or something. So everything had gotten already very dark up here. So it was all dark and it was getting ready. She needed to get cleaned up. I was feeding her in the dark, but eventually she had to go to bed and we still had no power and I needed to be able to feed her like a bottle before bed. So we were able to use that thing, and it was cool to see like it spike up to 200 watts or something when it was actually heating water before it drops down to like the idle power draw. But that thing was extremely handy to make sure that we were actually able to feed our daughter. Then as for lights, we had a ton of smart lights come in handy, and the two biggest ones were the Eve Flare as well as the Hue stand, I don't know what it's called, but the tabletop little nightlight stand thing. It just looks like a lamp. Tabletop lamp go, something like that. But it's a little lamp, and we have one in Harrison's room, one in Ellie's room, and they're able to kind of pick them up and carry them around, or at least Harrison can, and like go to the bathroom at night, that kind of thing, but they're battery powered. So when the power went out, we were able to use my voice assistant, Apple Home app, to control the Eve Flare. I have a few of those in the house. We have like 3 of them, so I could actually turn those on, set the colors, get them where I needed to go. And then for the Hue tabletop lamp go or whatever it is, there's a button on the top to cycle through. So I could not change the colors on that one because it would have to go through the hub, but I was able to at least change the colors through the top of it and get it to a nice bright white and give us some light in our house. So it was really nice. The snow eventually started pouring down. We had essentially some candles and a bunch of smart lights in the house. They were able to keep us lit until it actually got time for the power to come back on, which was hours later. It was around like 10 o'clock maybe that our power finally came on. So like 5 hours of outage time. We also used one of my power stations for Ellie's crib. We have like this snoo in there that rocks her to sleep and everything and has the white noise and all of that. So I was able to plug that into one of them that I had, and that was able to power that throughout the entire night for us, which was great. So we didn't have to worry about anything. Though the only downside was I did not have the settings correct for my Hue lights. So in our bedroom where Ellie is still sleeping in her bassinet, at like 10 o'clock when the lights came, or the power came back on, it turned on all of the Hue lights back to their 100% white brightness. Just kind of like a reboot. It didn't wake her up because that girl was tired. But again, just really nice to have like those power stations and some smart lights that we could still control in the case of this power outage. So hope no one has any more of those as we get into winter, but I'm sure it's going to happen. So make sure you're prepared. Smart lights, candles, batteries, whatever it is that you need. Because, yeah, at least around here, it's going to happen. Starting out, there has been many companies kind of making statements following the launch of Matter 1.5. So Matter 1.5, it brought a bunch of things, but the big thing that I know all of us care about is camera support. Camera support is finally here. So what about, when are we going to start seeing some cameras, some devices? Well, I reached out to a number of different manufacturers to kind of get their responses. A few of them wanted to say, no comment, no commitments at this time. But fortunately, there were a few that I was able to get on the record to talk about it. Starting off with one of them that I've talked about a lot on the show, that is Akara. Akara says, we are happy to share that Akara's first Matter camera is expected to be released in the first half of 2026. We're also planning to roll out Matter support to some of our existing cameras. Now, if we're reading tea leaves here, the two most recent cameras from Akara would be the new the G100, right, that I've talked about quite a bit, and then the G5 Pro. Those would be the two biggest ones, not to mention video doorbells and things like that. So I would not be surprised to see this come to the Akara Leg G410 video doorbells, as well as the G100 and G5 Pro, all being the most recent ones. If I was going to pick one camera, it would probably be the G5 Pro. That should theoretically have, the most power behind it, because it can also act as a hub and everything like that. But Akara isn't cementing exactly which models will be getting that update. Now, that statement comes from Kathy Yu, who's the Senior Vice President and Head of Global Division. So I'm glad that we were able to kind of get some idea on what is going on with Akara. It's not completely, narrowing things down, but I'm glad to know that there's at least some intention of bringing it to existing models that are out there. So that is still very good. At least it's kind of something that is going on. I also reached out to Eve to see what their opinions were and if they would be getting in on the mix on updating their cameras. They have their existing cameras out there now that support HomeKit or Apple Home, but it's kind of been a while since those had been updated. So I wasn't completely sure if those would be able to get updated in time, or if they had enough kind of power in them to support it. And right now they're saying no. Both Eve Cam and Eve Outdoor Cam do not have the necessary specs required for Matter 1.5. So it sounds like they are Eve has done a very good job of bringing Matter to older products, right? We've seen them do this a lot, but it looks like in this case, those were, as Eve says, architected ahead of time, ahead of the Matter 1.5 spec being finalized, put out there, all of that kind of stuff. So unfortunately, those will not be supported, but it does sound like they are working on a new ones. So Eve continues, whenever it's technically feasible, we've provided Matter support for our existing Eve products through free firmware updates. In the case of our current cameras that approach is unworkable, we're actively developing a new generation of Matter-enabled cameras built around the spec from the ground up, and we look forward to sharing more soon. So hopefully we'll see things a little more concrete from Eve, Akara, and others at CES, which is coming up very soon, roughly a month away. Now, in terms of something a little more concrete now that we can sink our teeth into, Xthings does have a new camera that they have announced and that is going to be for sale very soon. They actually say that this new camera, which is called the UltiCam IQ V2 with Edge AI. So this is the second generation of their PoE cameras. It is a fairly competent looking camera here. It is PoE. It merges Gemini AI intelligence. It has Matter 1.5, as well as support for other smart home ecosystems. Now, when I reached out to confirm, they say this is shipping with Matter 1.5 on it and ready to go. Of course, that doesn't mean you're going to be able to do anything with that because it requires support for the ecosystems. And as of now, no ecosystem supports Matter 1.5. But you could pick up the UltiCam IQ V2 and have this ready to go for as soon as Apple Home does support Matter. This would be pulled in. So a few other specs here to talk about: 4K UHD video, HDR, enhanced low light capture, 160 degree diagonal field of view, infrared night vision up to 10 meters, two-way audio with mic and speakers, integrated siren and spotlight, weather resistance from -4 to 122 Fahrenheit indoor-outdoor use, and as I mentioned, it is PoE, but it's also Wi-Fi 2.4 gigahertz and Bluetooth Low Energy 5, optional LTE fallback, and there's a local storage redundancy with SD cards up to 512 gigs supported. So this seems a fairly capable camera. It is coming in December of 2025 for $199. So honestly, for the very first kind of Matter-enabled camera that has been made official, I'm excited about it. So those are kind of where we know now. The one thing that was still kind of up in the air is where Apple was going to fall on this. And from a little digging from people, it looks like we have a little bit more information. So some people were sleuthing around looking through the GitHub repo, and they noticed one of the names that had contributed quite a bit to that repository where GitHub, like, all of the Matter stuff is done publicly, right? Like, it's all kind of open and out there. Well, as it seems, as noted by a few people, including Jen Tui over at The Verge, but one of Apple's engineers, Aaron Rosenberg, is actually listed on that repository project. So he is actively contributing to cameras for the CSA for Matter, which is a very good thing. On top of that, looking into Aaron, he actually used to work for Logitech, where he developed some of the very first cameras to support HomeKit Secure Video. So Aaron worked at Logitech, developed some of the first HomeKit Secure Video cameras, came over to Apple, continued to do that work, and now he is actively contributing to the camera spec for Matter. So to me, that is just kind of further confirmation. Apple is 100% all in on Matter cameras. We're just going to have to wait for Apple to kind of confirm that and how that actual support is going to shape up. Just still a little bit on the topic of Matter here, Cybermod Studio posted an image of an updated version of the ON cameras, like ONN. Now, this is a Walmart store brand, basically, but what's really interesting here is that the ON brand will be supporting Matter. So he actually shares a photo of an upcoming version of the ON video doorbell with a Matter pairing code on the back. So this seems like it is like actively like in production, development, whatever it happens to be here, which could be huge. And my biggest takeaway here, this is the part that kind of really gets me excited. This is a $30 video doorbell that could work seamlessly with Apple Home, HomeKit Secure Video, all of that. That is incredible to me. And I am really hyped for that kind of to get here. Again, nothing concrete from anyone, but this is like proof that there is like active development from the ON brand for Matter, bringing like low cost accessories to Matter and Apple Home, which is amazing. So yeah, I'm pretty excited by all that stuff. We saw a few updates coming to some products. So Onvis has an update to their S4 smart plug. With this update, we're getting a new version of Matter. So new Matter 1.4 is being supported on this device, as well as Thread 1.4. The firmware is 1.4.0. It's out there for all Onvis S4 smart plugs. So definitely check that out if you have one of those. I'm glad to see newer versions of Matter and Thread, and it's kind of really nice for developers to actually call out which versions of these things that they are supporting on their devices. So if you've got one of those, be sure to update it to the latest versions of Thread and Matter. Hopefully you're going to get improved performance because of that. Then we have Sonoff. Sonoff has a new product out there. It is the Sonoff Mini Duo 2-gang Matter over Wi-Fi smart switch. Now there's actually a trio of new products that Sonoff announced, but this is the only one that is specifically Matter compatible, Matter over Wi-Fi on this. So this is a tiny little thing that can go into your switches and gives you control over them, right? So they're touting Matter compatible, dual load control, detached relay mode, smart control and automation, compact and reliable. But I love these little things. I use the Hue relay switch in our bathroom, so it allows me to keep the existing switches that are in there, and then I can kind of flip the switch and use that to trigger automations and things like that. So these are very cool And it's nice to see this is specifically a two-gang version, so like two-way switches, things like that, that are going to be supported. So that is great. Works with Matter over Wi-Fi. Plug this in. It always has power. Can be over Wi-Fi, which means it can work in remote areas of your house. You don't have to worry about, in my case, I have to make sure I'm near my, Hue bridge to make it work. You don't have to have thread or anything. Wi-Fi is great if it reaches everywhere within your home, so that's pretty sweet. So this is available now. I put the link for it down below in the actual show notes, so check that out if you're interested in picking one up. A little bit more Eve news in this episode, as it appears the new Eve Thermo 4 has leaked. Now, this comes from the actual CSA website, so where you can actually go. This is the organization that certifies Matter products, and you can see you can look up products on there, right? You can see their actual Matter certificate. So there's things like the Eve Weather, the last generation Eve Thermo, all of that stuff. And now there's a new listing for the Eve Thermo version 4.0. It is listed as Thread and Bluetooth. This is just a new version of the Eve Thermo. The certification date was 11/21/2025, so this just happened, and it has not been released yet. So maybe this is going to be a CES announcement if you are in specifically Europe as well with these things, because they have a lot of radiators. We don't have a ton of radiators here in the US, but they are definitely more popular abroad. So this allows you to control your radiator valve through Matter and Apple Home, adjust the temperature, set the temperature. It's going to adjust it as it needs to get the temperature in your home just right. So these are very, very cool. I think they're a really neat product for those that have radiators, and I'm not really sure what the other differences are between this one and the last generation. The last generation one, this one has no photos or anything available, so I don't know if there's any hardware changes to the design, anything like that, but they did seemingly update it. I mean, the other one, the older version, what I believe was still Thread. So this isn't even it wasn't like it was moving to Thread was the big update here. Still wireless, still Thread, Matter, all of that stuff. So still good to see. Hopefully we'll get something official very soon. With Thanksgiving out of the way, we are clearly into peak shopping season, and that is my favorite time to be able to talk about Shopify, because it's when it absolutely shines. So I know a bunch of you have probably been shopping over this past weekend. Maybe you're still shopping today on Cyber Monday, but you've probably used a Shopify website. There's a very high chance if you've been shopping, you probably did. I bought a few things, and every single time I knew exactly when it was a Shopify website, and I was tracking it over there in the shop app to see when my order was shipped and fulfilled and all of that stuff to leave reviews. It's really cool to see. So Shopify, if you don't know, is the place that you need to go when you are starting or growing a business, right? If you are starting a business and you're focusing on the actual product itself, whatever that happens to be, the product or the service, that is your expertise. That is your bread and butter. You don't have to worry about building a website, what shipping stuff to do, and where you ship to, and taxes, and how you handle all of those things. No, Shopify does it. You just come up with your product or your service, and you can have a website ready to go, selling stuff online by basically that afternoon. It's crazy fast, and it looks super nice and professional. But then as you grow, Shopify grows with you. You can expand your plan, add on additional features. You can add all sorts of things, like giving AI descriptions to stuff. You can use their AI tools to help boost sales. You can add plugins from third parties to do things like offer insurance on your packages, which can help reduce things like fraud, chargebacks, and missing shipments on delivery. You can say, well, you didn't get shipping insurance, so we can't help you. That was your choice, and you have to talk about them. Or you did get shipping insurance, so you have to talk to our partner and figure those things out. So these little plugins can do a lot of things to help grow your business, give you additional, means of revenue, while also protecting yourself and fighting some of the problems that a lot of businesses have to struggle with. And then when you get big, you're crazy, you're huge, cool. You can still do additional things with Shopify. You can build an entire custom website from the bottom up with Shopify that does everything that you need, that is just entirely yours, with all sorts of crazy custom stuff in there. But it's all built on the back of Shopify. That's why I love it, because you can use it as a one person shop out of your garage, or you can be a massive company doing it. Personally, I just love that I see tech companies embracing it so much. I mean, Allbirds, Rothy's, Brooklinen are a bunch of sites that kind of they talk about, but I love seeing things like Nomad, 12 South, Moment, all using Shopify for their websites to do all of these cool, amazing things. We talk about Nomad in this episode. Their website is built on Shopify. You go ahead and you buy something, add to cart, you'll recognize that checkout process. It is distinctly Shopify. It's really quick, super easy to check out. Use Apple Pay, Google Pay, Shop Pay, all of those things. And then, as I mentioned, it kicks over to the Shop app. And because we are getting into like that gifting season, definitely check out the Shop app. First, when you're buying things, you can be earning like rewards through Shopify, which is really cool. You get shop cash. But then I like using the app to find new things to buy. Like they use AI in the app to help find new brands and products that you might connect with. And so many ones I have found there that I have never seen anywhere else. And I can like find like cool, unique products to gift people that they probably also haven't seen. I think it's really smart and way better than those generic lists of like, here's 10 gifts for fathers. How about a whiskey rock? That would be a great gift. Or how about a wallet with his name on it? Those are terrible gifts. Don't do those to people. Try the Shop app and find something actually useful. So what I'm saying is Shopify has a lot of benefits for everyone. Whether you own a company, whether you're trying to grow a company, whether you're starting a company, or you're someone who likes to buy things online. So simply put, turn your big business idea into with Shopify on your side. Sign up for your $1 per month trial and start selling today at shopify.com/HomeKit. That is all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/HomeKit. Shopify.com/HomeKit. Do you know what I also did recently? I didn't even know this, right? So I've covered Function as a sponsor on the podcast for a hot second, right? But what I didn't know is that you got to do like a follow-up with that. Yeah, it's really cool. So Function, if you are not familiar, is this platform to help you take control of your health. That's why I chose it, because it's something that you can actually do to learn more about yourself, right? Like I'm already doing a bunch of things on my own. Like I'm tracking things with my Apple Watch, my sleep, my heart rate. I'm watching, my weight and BMI through smart scales and tracking workouts and all that stuff. But eventually, like there's things that you can't do, like, things with like blood in your body. Well, Function is there to help you learn and understand more about yourself that you just can't do at home. So you go in really, really easy. You sign up, go in, do your lab test. Within like a couple days, I started seeing my results coming in, telling me what my results were, and then breaking them down in plain English. Like you said, okay, this is this. This is a little high, should be a little bit lower. Here's why. Here's what that could actually mean to your body and what it could actually do to you. That's why you could be feeling these things like hands numbness or tiredness, whatever it, happens to be. I just love that it was plain English. And then when I got all of my results in, which it does like over 100 different biomarkers with this, it can then give you an actual, like, there's a doctor that will summarize everything for you and just break it all down for you so you can understand even more. Now, even beyond that, the app was updated recently. There's this new like AI assistant in the app that can take your actual data and help you come up with plans and things you can do to help improve your health. It's really, really neat and kind of gets you more involved. Like you're going in, you're looking at this data, then you're asking questions to an AI tool and trying to get more out of it, which I love. I also love that Function isn't selling you things. Like they're not trying to sell you supplements or something. Like you do these results, they give you the information, then you can do what you want with it. They're not saying, well, this level is low and here's the solution for it that you should buy from us. No, they're just giving you data and empowering you to make the decisions to change yourself, whatever that happens to be. So as I said at the beginning of this ad read, like what I just did, I got the alert that it's now been like 6 or so months since I did this test and it's time to schedule my follow-up. So I just did that. I scheduled my follow-up and I'm going to be able to get these results and see how they've changed after several months of making changes in my lifestyle, of increasing my workouts, adding and changing some of the supplements and vitamins that I've been taking every single day. So I can kind of feel for myself, right, how I've been feeling a bit better, but now I'm also going to get it in hard data, which I think is even cooler. This is all really neat. I've just been a huge fan of this since I signed up for it, and I just recommended it to everybody. I know people in my real world that have all signed up for it because I have just espoused the benefits so much. So try it out for yourself. Own your own health for $365 a year. That's $1 a day. Learn more and join using my link. Visit www.functionhealth.com/HomeKit or use gift code HomeKit25 for a $25 credit towards your membership. Finally, sponsoring this episode is Surfshark. Surfshark is a virtual private network, a VPN. It's basically a way to help protect yourself online, whether it is trying to give yourself increased privacy, security, whatever it happens to be. I use a VPN constantly. Like I always use it on my phone and I put it on like my laptop every time that I am traveling outside of my home for kind of a number of different reasons. The way a VPN works is it basically takes all of your network data and passes it through a tunnel, an encrypted tunnel to get to its source. And it hides whatever it is that you are doing online. So make sure strangers cannot see what you're browsing or where you're going or anything you're entering, anything like that. A VPN can help secure. It can also be really helpful for things like bypassing geo restrictions, which I'll come back to. Now, I travel a lot. I'm getting ready to travel for CES very soon. I travel a lot for other work things. I travel across the world. I was in, Europe and stuff earlier this year. I am everywhere, and I am super, super cautious about doing anything online on public Wi-Fis. Hotels, airports, coffee shops, all these places, like I just don't know. Like there's so many people there. I mean, even CES itself, there's so many people on these shared public Wi-Fis that require, no credentials to get onto. And I'm just super, super nervous about anyone ever being able to tap into what I'm doing, access to any of my data, anything like that. So I always use a VPN to make sure that I'm protected. On top of that, it's great for bypassing those geolocation restrictions. Like football games. Like literally I was trying to watch the Bengals game because the Browns were on a bye week. I was trying to watch the Bengals, and for whatever reason, apparently where I am, they decided I don't want to watch the Bengals. So I had some other stupid game on instead. And I thought this was ridiculous. So I just turned on the VPN, which is literally on all my devices. So I can just turn it on iPhone, iPad, Mac, even Apple TV. I turn it on my Apple TV and changed my location, was able to quickly switch to basically another virtual location and instantly got the Bengals game. It was amazing. It was super cool. And I've used this in other places too. Like when I was in CES trying to watch sports, again, it didn't like where I was. So it didn't want to show me the games. I changed it. I made it look like I was basically back home and I was good to go. It is super helpful. Imagine you're in Europe and you're trying to watch things on, Netflix or Hulu or something, and it isn't available in Europe. They can help you with those things too. So there's so many benefits of a VPN, unlimited devices, 3,200 servers in 100 countries with Surfshark. This is a no-log VPN, which means they do not keep any footprint of where you go or what you do, and they have 24/7 customer support, which is super helpful, especially if you're traveling outside the US, another country, and you need to make sure customer support is there for you. Now, Surfshark has other things beyond just a VPN that you can add on that makes it even more beneficial to you. There's Surfshark Alert, which is a breach detection system. It gives you like email security, credit card security, personal ID security. You give it this information and it monitors it all for you and then alerts you if there ever detects like a breach of that. Or there's alternative ID. This is a tool. It generates a brand new identity and email to use for you online. It gives you like name and email protection, fewer spam emails, personal information security. And this is just easy stuff you can add on with your VPN to get even more value. I love Surfshark. I've been using it for a while now. try it out. It is risk-free. There's a 30-day money-back guarantee. I do have an offer for all of you out there. You can go to surfshark.com/HomeKit or use code HomeKit at checkout to get 4 extra months of Surfshark VPN. Check it out. Let me know what you think. I want to round out this episode with 2 things, a little bit more in-depth talk about the Apple smart home display situation, as well as a review of another helpful product. So let's talk about Apple's smart display first. This is something that has been talked about to death, right? I've talked about rumor after rumor, delay after delay, but the more that I've been thinking about it lately, as we've been talking about Matter 1.5 and some software changes and things like that, it's really got my mind thinking about this new device and how Apple's gonna be able to do things a little bit differently. And I came up with a couple ideas that I really have not seen thrown around anywhere else. I did write an entire article about it that you can go check out on Apple Insider. I put it in the show notes as well, so you can look there. But essentially, we know a good number of things about this device. So about a 6 to 7 inch display, roughly the size of an iPad mini, or quote 2 iPhones stacked side to side. So it may not be the same aspect ratio of an iPad mini, but roughly the same amount of shape. We also know that there's supposed to be 2 versions of this in some fashion. There's going to be a version that can sit on your countertop and one that could go on a wall. How that's going to work, we don't know. Apple could release 2 different versions of the device completely, a wall version and a tabletop version. Apple could also opt to include just like basically a tablet, and then it has to be connected to one of the mounts. It could either be connected to a wall mount or to a speaker mount for the countertop. And it would be basically at that point like kind of like a monitor. How do you want to use your monitor? Do you want to buy a stand for it? Do you want to buy a mount for it? I mean, Apple doesn't include a stand with, the Pro Display XDR, so this could be the same way. You have to pick your stand to go with it, whether the table or for the wall. But we've also heard that too. We've also heard about HomeOS, the operating system that this is supposed to be running. It's going to be a forked version of tvOS that's going to be specifically designed to power the smart home and this new display. We also heard the last kind of big thing was there was not going to be an app store, at least at launch. So we'd only be getting like Apple's first party apps. But as I was playing around, that part really stuck with me. Because I'm like, it would be interesting. Like I tried to figure out how that would work in my mind. Like, is Apple just going to launch this literally with its own couple applications and then get to DubDub, where it's going to announce like HomeOS version 2, and then version 2 is going to launch in the fall with the full app store and everything. And to me, that made sense. Like Apple even kind of did a little bit similar with the Vision Pro. Technically, we did have apps from the beginning, but Apple released it kind of earlier in the year, and then we immediately had a Vision OS 2 just after that launch that had a bunch of new features. So I'm like, okay, I could see that possibly happening, maybe just not ready for the App Store. But what I started to think is, I wonder how much Apple's going to borrow from its other devices, right? We're seeing things like Control Center on Apple TV seems like it would be great for a smart display, because you could cycle between your cameras for your smart home and see those in like that kind of live view there, as well as switching to multi-user support. Again, seems relevant for this smart home display. The interface for changing screensavers also feels like it would be at home on this little smart display here. The recipe management stuff from the News app, all of that, again, would be perfect for this. Control it with your voice, see your ingredients, and get step-by-step instructions on your recipes directly from Apple News. I think all of that could work very well. I also think that widgets would be important. And I initially was thinking about like standby mode widgets. Standby mode looks great. Apple could kind of steal some of these things and put them into this smart display. But what if Apple wanted to go further? Think about macOS Tahoe. You can put widgets on your desktop for apps that are running on your iPhone. And I think that would be perfect for this smart display. Apple could use that same exact technology that it uses in macOS Tahoe to put literally any app that has a widget onto your smart display. Same thing with shortcuts and Apple's voice assistant. Anything that uses App Intents could also work immediately out of the box on this smart display. Apple would have to do minimal work. Developers would have to do minimal work to get their devices or their apps, their stuff immediately on this new smart display. And I think that would be a really smart move for Apple to do. It would be so seamless, and they've already done the technology for the Mac. I wonder if they could have even made it for the smart display. And like, hey, this would also be useful on the Mac desktop. I would 100% believe that that could have been the case. I mean, I'm looking at my desktop now, and I have things like my blood sugar is on here, Flighty to track flights. I have like ones for Audible, the smart home stuff, of course, all right there on my desktop, and all of those would be perfect for a smart home display. I walk in the kitchen, it knows it's me, it shows me my real-time blood sugar readings and how long until I have to leave for my flight. Like, all of this stuff would be super cool, super relevant, and easy to pull off. So I think that is something that Apple could explore for the smart display. I don't know if I'm right or not, but I do hope that I am. I also mentioned like the app intents. I think that's going to be crucial. I mean, think of how that could be able to tap into apps and have it kind of run things without having to really fully use the display for stuff. I mean, it can get in there, get data, it can check, your Amazon order, it can check package details that perhaps are out for delivery. And Apple Intelligence in general, I think, is going to be very important. Not only for just answering questions and being, more relevant, know a little bit more about you, but I'm excited for things like summaries. I want Apple Intelligence to be able to summarize those notifications and read them to me. It knows I'm in the kitchen. Hey, your wife just texted you. Is this what you're looking for? And then describes a picture of whatever it is that she's holding. Or even for my security cameras. Akara is already doing this, right? With their beta of AI stuff to describe what's in the room. It's really helpful. It literally tells me Harrison or a child is watching TV while holding a balloon, whatever it happens to be. It's pretty useful. So I want to see Apple Intelligence do that same stuff for security cameras. It could tell me that somebody in a brown outfit put a package on my porch. That would be really useful. I'm like, oh, well, UPS came. That's helpful to know. So I think Apple Intelligence like that could be very useful. And those app intents getting in there to check on whatever, an Amazon order, checking the weather somewhere through Carrot Weather. There's a lot of things that you could do through app intents that wouldn't require any work. And developers that have already added app intents to their apps will be ready to go on this thing on day one. And since we're talking about Apple's Assistant, I also was wondering, these things just spin in my head, is what if Apple was able to do the same thing that it does now with third-party speakers, right? So we have the Ecobee thermostat is capable of acting as basically a HomePod, right? So it listens, and when it hears you, it then passes that query over to your HomePod for processing, and then Apple's Assistant gives you the answer through the Ecobee. Right? It's a way to put essentially a HomePod or another Apple-powered speaker in your house without having to need an actual Apple-powered speaker. It's extending that. If this new device adds Apple Intelligence, which it certainly will, I wonder if it would be able to add kind of that Apple Intelligence capabilities to other HomePods. What do you guys think? I mean, could Apple do that? If we have, I have a HomePod Mini on my desk here. I ask it a question. It realizes it's Apple Intelligence. It passes it off to the smart display to do all the processing, then sends the answer right back here. It would be seamless. I wouldn't notice anything else different happen, but I would be able to get a lot more intelligent answers out of products that I already have. Or maybe Apple is just going to sell new versions of them that won't do this. But then, I don't know. It just seems like it's plausible and it has me curious on if it is something that Apple would do. And I kind of hope that they do. But either way, go check out the full piece that I wrote. I just think there's a lot of different parts that are coming together here that are starting to make sense. Apple could have done this sooner, but they would have done it worse. Now we have things like Matter 1.5 and camera support. So full matter cameras from a bunch of different manufacturers, including Apple itself, who is supposedly working on an actual smart home camera. So all that would be great for this display. So that is imminent. That is happening. We have Apple's own hardware that it's been working on, like its networking chip that adds Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, and Thread. So we have this new, more efficient networking chip that it can stick into this thing. And then you have the software. We have the stuff for widgets. We have the stuff on tvOS. We have Apple Intelligence finally getting done when it comes to its more personal voice assistant and all of that. We have ChatGPT integration. All of these together will make a much more compelling smart display than had Apple released this 1 or 2 years ago. So I know, color me an optimist, but this seems plausible to me, and I'm excited for it. So we'll have to see what happens. Everything still points to March as when we'll actually get to see this thing for the first time. So yeah, stay tuned, and hopefully that'll actually pan out. We're going to wrap up this episode with a quick review. In my hands, I have the Nomad Tracking Card Pro. If you want to see this for yourself, kind of see how it compares, all of that, you can view it on the video version of this podcast. But honestly, it's not that crazy of a thing to see. It literally is still credit card size and all that, but it is a Find My enabled tracker. So this is going to be the same thing as an AirTag, but third party in more of a slim profile that's designed for wallet and other slim spaces compared to like the round, slightly bulbous AirTag. Now, this is not the first tracking card that Nomad has made. They also have the Tracking Card Air. I do have both of them if you're watching the video version of the podcast. So I have the Tracking Card Air, which is very similar to most other tracking cards that are on the market, right? It's basically the thickness of a credit card. It's got some kind of neat printing on the front there that looks kind of like a schematic, and it's wirelessly rechargeable, so you can throw it on your MagSafe or Qi charger. It's going to charge up. I like it. The Nomad Tracking Card Air is good, but I think I like the Tracking Card Pro a bit better. So first, it actually has a metal frame. So if you're looking at it from the side, it has a metal edge there all the way around. I believe it's aluminum. I think it's aluminum. And then the front and the back are your typical plastic. It feels very secure, very sturdy. Now, this is notably thicker. So if you're actually holding both of the cards together, I'm doing it on the video version, but you can see how much thicker the Tracking Card Pro is in comparison. I wouldn't say it's twice as thick, but it's like 1.5 times as thick as the regular version, which means if you want to use this in someplace like your MagSafe wallet, it might be a little bit tight. I'd say this is probably better for a regular wallet if you have one of those, Passport wallets, a bunch of other places like that. So what else makes this thing pro? So first off is the design with that metal body and everything. It's also designed to look like a credit card. And at first I thought it was just kind of like a kind of not a joke, but I thought it was just kind of for fun. Like, it's like, because they did like a neat pattern on the other one. Like, it's not a real schematic, but it looks like a schematic, and it's just kind of like visually interesting. So I assume that's what they were doing here with the Tracking Card Pro to make it just look visually interesting. So it says Nomad on the top right hand corner. On the middle of the left hand side is a large, not large, but like a silver printed chip, literally like you would use on a credit card, that exact same placement. And you turn it around the back, it says Tracking Card Pro very faintly, as well as a very faint magnetic strip. Now, I don't know if this would actually fool anybody, but I did read on one of Nomad's like emails or website that it's supposed to be kind of like mimicking a credit card. So if somebody had your wallet and kind of rummaged through it, they would maybe not notice this was a tracker. They would just think that it was just another credit card, whether they hung on to it or left it with the wallet, whatever, but they wouldn't realize that it was specifically a tracker. So maybe that's kind of the idea here. And honestly, it's kind of smart, kind of neat just to kind of blend it in. If you're going through a wallet really quick, it just looks like a credit card, at least at first glance. And they literally still label it Tracking Card Pro and locatable by the Find My app on the back. But if you look at it from the front and you see the chip there, you see just the Nomad name, it's white. It basically looks like, an Apple Card. Again, I have that on camera too. They look very similar to one another. So I could kind of see it. So I guess that's what they're going for. The other thing that is really nice about this that gives it kind of like that pro feature is 16-month battery life. That is actually 50% longer than an AirTag, and I think 3 times as long as Nomad's other card, the Nomad tracking card Air. So really long battery life. I mean, 16 months, you're looking like a year and a half, year and a third, whatever that happens to be. But it's more than a year, and I think that's great because you can just take this thing, keep it with you, and as long as you remember once every few months to throw this on some sort of MagSafe or Qi charger, you're going to be good. You're going to be good forever. Just throw it on a charger at least once every few months, and you're going to be set. And I think that's kind of like a sweet spot, because if you make it too short, you have to constantly remember, especially if the battery doesn't actually last that long. This is just long enough. Like, I think it's a good balance between thinness and battery life. If it was longer, it would have to be even thicker than this, but if it was shorter, we're into the same boat kind of that we are now. So I do like that it's got a bit longer of a battery life than your average card does. Easy to keep this thing topped off, ready to go. Even though it is metal, it's still nice and lightweight, and it can hold its weight up. So if you put this onto a MagSafe charger, it will hold itself there. I have one on the video. Yes, I'm putting it onto a charger, and it holds there just fine. So you can top it off that way, even if it's like an angled charging stand. So very handy. It works with the Find My app, so it has all the features that you'd find on any other third-party tracking card. So you can make the sound, you can kind of see its location, put it into lost mode. Works with the different airlines, so you can track this thing down if it's in your luggage, anything like that. You can share the link temporarily with something like an airline if you lost it or left it at a restaurant, Airbnb. They'd be able to use that code to track the card down. And the noise coming out of it is loud enough. I threw it in a couch cushion and I walked into the living room once I was like close enough to connect, and then I could hear it just fine. So everything else checks out. We still don't have a precision finding on third-party trackers, but Apple just has not enabled that. So it's not possible at all. So I think for what they're working with, Nomad did a great job on this. I very much like it. The downside here is that it is on back order. It's only $39, but it is on back order and it won't ship until January 15th. So that is definitely a bummer. There's 2 different versions of it. There's a black and white one. Personally, I like the white one. It's more like an Apple Card. And that one actually ships sooner. That one is up on pre-order to ship on December 19th. So if you want the white one, like I have, December 19th, $39. If you want the black one, that has slipped. That is shipping in January. But absolutely go ahead and check them out. So that is it. That is the episode. We got through the holiday weekend. Hope everyone is doing amazing. We're getting into the holidays here and then into CES. I'm very excited for what is coming up. It's going to be a big 2026. So we had a few more episodes this year. You guys do what you guys do best. Please, let's finish on the year on a good note. Leave this review or the podcast a review on your podcast player of choice. 5, 10, 100-star rating if you have not done so already. You can also watch the video version of this, youtube.com/HomeKit Insider. Otherwise, make sure you guys are subscribed and following, and I'll see you guys on the next episode.